Konnichiwa.
Hi.
Konnichiwa.
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 Hi, konnichiwa.
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 Konnichiwa, sensei.
Konnichiwa. Hi. You can do it together. So stand. Yes. Yes, ladies, remember you keep your hands crossed in front. Gents on the side. Hi. Konnichiwa.
Konnichiwa.
You can have a seat. Hi. If you're joining us online, you can also do it from home if you have space. It's good to practice. It's called ojigi, right? Bowing. It's good to practice right from the beginning. Change my view. Yes. Konnichiwa, minasan. Hope everyone's having a nice Sunday morning. It's good to see the group here doesn't look too sleepy. That's good. So I'm always worried about morning classes, right? It's easy to feel very drowsy. Yes. I'll just give a couple more minutes while others enter. I try to change this. Got it. Great. Hi. Those of you who are joining us online, once again, a request, please turn on your videos so that I can see you, so that everybody here can see you. Yes, thank you. Hi, konnichiwa. Great.
Ohayo gozaimasu, sensei.
Ohayo gozaimasu. Yes, we haven't covered that yet, but I'm sure some of you know it. I heard a few of you saying it this morning. Ohayo gozaimasu. What does it mean?
Good morning.
Yes, great. Everybody knows. Good morning, right? So yes, for some of us, it's still Ohayo gozaimasu, so you can say that. We'll repeat it once for practice. Ohayo gozaimasu.
Ohayo gozaimasu.
Ohayo gozaimasu.
Gozaimasu.
Excellent. Yes. So not to be confused with the word for thank you. Thank you is what?
Arigatou gozaimasu.
Arigatou gozaimasu.
Hi. Arigatou gozaimasu. Okay. They both have, the second part is the same, which is something you add for respect and politeness, right? The gozaimasu part, we added for respect and politeness. That's why you might also hear it omitted sometimes. People might just say arigato or just say ohayo, right? It's kind of a casual way of speaking. But since we're going to speak polite language for the most part, we will include gozaimasu when we get started. But you have to just remember the first part separately. It's easy to confuse since they sound similar, right? So happy to see everybody back. Today we will continue what we got started with yesterday. But first we'll do a little bit of review/practice. So let me do this. And I have to share the screen. Oops. Windowed mode. I hope everyone can see the screen. Yes? Is it visible for everyone online?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, great. So it's not going to be very difficult to guess what this says, but I would like everyone to try to read it. Yes, since we learned hiragana yesterday, you can try to tell me what you think it says.
Kanji.
Kanji.
Hiragana, katakana.
Katakana.
Fantastic, right? So this is kanji. Kanji. We saw G yesterday towards the end of the class, right? You add those two little strokes, it becomes a voiced sound. What sound is this if we eliminate these? She, right?
She.
It's she, and it becomes G. Great. So this is Kanji. This is hiragana.
Hiragana.
Yes, hiragana. Again here, the original sound is ha. When we voice it, it becomes ga, right? Hiragana. This is another small pronunciation tip. You don't have to work very hard if it's difficult for you. But a lot of times the Japanese ga sounds tend to sound a little nasal, right? A little bit further back in the throat. It's not a glottal sound like you see in Arabic or French. It's not like g, but it's like a little bit back in the throat. Ga. It's not ga in front, but ga. Hiragana. Gana. A little nasal. So hiragana and ka, na. Katakana. Right. Those of you who are online, you can also repeat it once. Katakana.
Katakana.
Hi. Perfect. Now, right away, since we're reading words in Japanese, you can start to get a feel for how the sounds are very even, right, across the word. It's not like English. I mean, even in India, a lot of our native languages tend to have very evenly distributed sound across a word. That's why when Indians speak English, it sounds so radically different from American English or British English, right? Because we're evenly distributing stress, where Americans and British people tend to give more stress on some parts of the word and less stress on other parts. And that's more noticeable. But Japanese is very similar to our languages, where there's even stress right across the whole word. So it's not katakana, it's not katakana, it's katakana. Very even, right? Just to give you a small difference example in English, right? We have the word, well, I'll actually write it. I feel content. There is content on the board, right? The same word, we can read it two different ways and it ends up meaning two different things because of this change in stress, right? Content, content. So content, there's stress on tent. Content, there's stress on con. And you can feel the change. It also affects the meaning. It's not always so, but it's often the case, right? Whereas in Japanese, you're not going to see that happen. It's very comfortable, very even, for us especially, coming from India, right? Another small note, the reason your Kana workbook includes both hiragana and katakana is because as a group, they are called kana, and that is the kana over here. In this case, the ka sound is becoming a ga sound, right? It's actually kana, but this is often something that's seen in Japanese language. When they combine parts together and make new words, some sounds tend to get voiced. So originally, this is a separate part, this is a separate part. They were brought together, and when they're brought together, in some cases, you'll see this voicing thing happen. We'll see this happen quite often. You don't have to think too hard. As and when we see new words, I will show you examples where that's happening. It makes it a little difficult for new learners because you don't know when you have to do it. It's just something you can learn when you learn that word, right? So it's never hirakana. It's always hiragana. So never katagana. It's always katakana. But the kana part actually means the same thing. We're not going to go into what it means here. That's not very important. So here we have the three scripts. They're all written in one script. Which script is that? Yes, this is all hiragana, right? Which we saw yesterday. Ah, hi, those all. Please come in. Why do you think they're all written in hiragana? Because you can read hiragana now? No, that's not the reason. What is hiragana used for? Native Japanese. Native Japanese words, right? All three of these are Japanese words. They're not foreign words. They weren't imported into Japanese from other languages. They're all Japanese words. Technically, native Japanese words that have some kind of concept or meaning behind them would usually be written in kanji, but we don't know kanji yet. So we're using hiragana. As you learn kanji, we will be replacing hiragana with kanji through the course, right, as we progress. But primarily for native Japanese words, hiragana and kanji. Katakana is mostly for foreign words. They do use katakana for a few other things in Japan today, modern Japan. Has anyone noticed maybe or read about it? What else is katakana used for? How many of you like manga? Yes? Is there some feature that's very common in comic books and manga? This is true in Western comics also. Sound effects, yes. We call it onomatopoeia. You don't need to know that. But basically, when you represent sounds with words like boom and bam and wham, right? In English, we tend to write it in all caps and put an exclamation mark. In Japanese, to make it stand out, often katakana is used. So it kind of pops, right? It looks different from the rest of the text. So one of its other uses is for sounds, right? To show sound effects. One more use is like when you don't know the kanji for a Japanese word, or you're trying to use a nickname for somebody's name. Sometimes people like to use katakana. It's a fixed thing, not everybody does it. Some people do it that way. So you may see it in such situations. If you actually go to Japan, you just keep that in mind. Hi. Dozo. Now coming back, we're going to do a little review. We'll also practice reading. Now yesterday we saw that there were 3 core types of strokes. The words in Japanese are written here in hiragana. I'd like everyone to try to read them. Hi. A stop is?
Tome.
Hi. If you need, you can look at your textbook. I don't expect all of you to have memorized everything in one day. So you can refer your textbooks. I'll give you 1 or 2 weeks to learn hiragana, katakana. So the first word is?
Tome.
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 Second one, we'll come to it in a second. This is tome, right?
Tome.
Tome.
Now we'll come to the second one. This
Tome.
is
Hane.
ha,
Hane.
ne, right? Fantastic. Easy to confuse that one, right? Hane, hane. And the last one.
Right.
Ha, chi desu ka? Is it chi? Very close. Ra. Hara.
Harai.
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 Fantastic. Harai. Harai. Again, it's equally distributed. You're not going to say harai. You say harai. It's harai. Even. Right?
Harai.
So, tome,
Hane. Harai.
Harai. Harai.
you don't have to memorize these things now. They're not that important. This is just for practice for you to read hiragana. Now, we looked at all this yesterday. I'm not going to repeat these things, but just a reminder, we looked at how to do, what direction we generally follow with strokes and the pattern in which we execute strokes in general in Japanese kanji script. It applies to hiragana and katakana also. Those of you who are interested in learning Chinese, this will be helpful for you in the future if that's what you're going to do, because it comes from Chinese actually. If you're interested in Korean, most modern Korean, they don't teach Hanja. They also used to use Chinese script, but if you like, it may help you out. So coming to hiragana, a little bit of review, right? Now you don't need to, I'm not going to ask you which hiragana right away. As I said, I'll give you a week or so to learn hiragana. But what I would like to do here is correct the series, right? So I have put it in kind of an order, and there would be 1 or 2 that's not quite right in that row. So in the first row, let's try to read the characters and point out which one is wrong. Shall we? First one is? It's correct, right? Yes. E.
Correct.
U.
That's also correct.
A. O.
Oh.
Again.
No, that's wrong.
Again.
This is a, it's supposed to be
O.
O.
Fantastic. Next.
Ka.
Ah,
Sa.
Wrong.
Chi.
this
Key
is
is
supposed to be
Q is also wrong.
P, right?
Hmm.
K, right. O, right.
This is Ku,
Hmm.
correct?
Correct.
O.
Who is wrong?
Great.
O.
Sa, is it correct? Correct. Yes, this is correct. Here also we saw this was actually incorrect here. This is Ki, right? So this is Sa, it's correct. Sa and Ki look kind of similar. This is correct.
No. She. No.
Yes. Actually, it's in the right row, but it's in the wrong column, right? Here you're supposed to have the
Ki.
E sound, which is
Hmm.
the next character. So Sa, Shi,
Shu.
Who?
Se.
No, so is wrong.
Wrong. So
this is actually which character?
it's
Fourth one.
A,
O.
A,
E.
It's A that's given here, but it should be so.
So.
So the next group,
Ka.
Ha. This is Chi.
Chi, yeah.
No.
No, wrong.
No, wrong.
Again, Sa is given here. Supposed to be
The opposite direction.
Chi, facing the other way. Fantastic, right? This is supposed to be Chi. Su,
Se. So.
Ko. The rest are correct?
Yeah.
Hi. Next row.
Na, Ni,
Ni.
No, Ne, No, all are correct.
Nu,
Wrong. Wrong.
it's not correct, right? Which character is given here?
Ne.
Ne.
Ne,
How does nu look? You need to add a loop at the end.
Loop. Yeah.
Fantastic. This is nu. Okay, we have to make it nu.
Ne.
Correct?
No.
Correct. Great. The next row?
Ha.
Ha.
Wrong.
He is
Which one is he?
The next one.
Next one.
One. Yes, but does this go in the next cell? No, right? What is who?
Who?
How do you write it? How many strokes?
Four.
Strokes.
1, 2,
Mhm.
3, 4. This should be here. This is who.
Hmm.
Yes. Ha, he, who,
He.
he. Correct.
O.
ho. Fantastic. So the rest of the row is fine. It's ma.
Ma.
The row is correct. It started off correctly.
Na,
Me is wrong.
Me is wrong.
Me is wrong. What does me look like? The number 4.
Before.
I'm the Hindi ma.
Hindi ma. Also, yes, I can see the resemblance. I think somebody felt it looked like Tamar a also a little bit. So this is me, right? Ma, me, me,
O.
Me.
me.
Me is wrong.
Ne is wrong. There is no loop. There should not be no. No loop.
Correct. This loop should not be there. This is nu, right? So these two need to be interchanged. This is me without the loop. So ma, me, me, me.
Mo is also wrong.
Mo is wrong. Yes. Mo is
So.
what's given there is so.
So.
Exactly. So ma, me, me, me.
You.
This says you,
You.
but it should actually start with
Yeah.
ya. And where is ya?
The next one.
So ya, you,
You.
yo.
Yo.
This is fantastic. Great. Just a few left to clear our confusions because these are the ones that look a little similar to others, right? This is
Re.
re. Fantastic. Oh, sorry, one second. This is re.
N.
Mm,
Mm.
Chi.
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 Tsu.
Su.
O.
Oh, right? But it's actually technically supposed to be wo, but mostly you're going to pronounce it as o. And you'll not really use it in writing words. You're going to use it only for grammar. Yes, exactly. Fantastic. Great. So good warm up. I'm glad to see some of you have made progress. If you are not able to read yet, if you didn't get it right away, that's fine. It's not even been a whole week, right? Last week we started, but not much. This week, yesterday is when we really looked at this hiragana. So it's fine. Don't feel disappointed if you didn't get it yet. That's completely natural. Take the next 1 week, right? That's going to be your main homework this whole week, to practice and get hiragana perfect. The idea behind hiragana and katakana is that you can learn it very quickly, right? There are only this many unique characters. So it's a lot less than most scripts. Many people can learn it in the span of 1 to 2 weeks if they put in some dedicated effort. So that is what I'd like. We're going to learn katakana today, but I would like everyone to prioritize hiragana. That's what you're going to need more at first. Right? Katakana, you keep learning in the background for an extra week or 2. That's okay. Yes. So when we were looking at hiragana yesterday, we looked at the core characters and we got started looking at modified characters, right? We saw the cases where we can add these 2 little strokes and make them voiced sounds, right? Exactly. And if we add this little circle to the top right corner, it becomes a pa sound. That's added only to the H group. You won't see this anywhere else. It'll be added only to the ha, hi, hu, he, ho, only to that group. Whereas the voicing can happen across 4 groups plus the ha group. Right? Those 4 groups are
Ra, za, da. Ba.
ha. Actually, it's 4 including ha. That was a trick question. So it's only these that can be voiced. You can just keep it in mind. It's easy, like sometimes from our mother tongue if we come from this, right? Because kasata are also some of the core Tamil sounds that you start learning. So you can kind of connect it and remember it that way. Finally, we were looking at contracted sounds, right? Contracted sounds. For these, you take the E sound of all of the groups except the I, U, A, O. We don't do the core vowel E sound, doesn't have this. All the other E sounds, right? And you can add a small ya, yu, or yo. You contract out that E sound. You remove the E sound and attach just the consonant part to ya, yu, or yo and create this new sound. So we'll go through that. There are some exceptions over here that we have to look at. There are 3 exceptions. Now, there are some systems of transliterating Japanese and English. We write Japanese with English characters sometimes, right? Online, if you look up song lyrics and stuff, you'll find it happening. Sometimes these are written like this. Because that's what the script seems to directly translate to. However, for these 3 groups, the ya sound does not come into this contracted sound at all. There is no ya when you pronounce it. We just say ja, ju, jo. You don't say jia, ju, jo. It's actually very hard to say also. So we're not going to do that for these 3. You can pronounce it as it is written here. Very straightforward. Whereas for all the others, you're bringing in that ya sound. Yes, the ya, that's the characteristic sound over there. One more small thing about how to write this character. Can I just have somebody's Kana workbook? Anybody's? Hi, thank you so much. Yes, let me just flip over. You have the contracted sounds towards the end, right? Yes. So you have practice for the contracted sounds towards the end. Practice writing, yes. It's over here. You'll see the E sound character in big size and the ya, you, and yo in small size. Page 109 in your Kana workbook. You can see the practice for that. As usual, there's hiragana on one side, katakana on the other side. Okay, just look at the left-hand side page for now. So you have the practice there. You can see the size difference, right? Just about a little lower than halfway of this height. That's how small the ya will get. This is very important in writing and reading also. If you don't read this correctly, you're going to read this as giya. To give a small example for the importance of reading these characters correctly, you have two different words, byoin and biyoin. Byoin means hospital. Biyo means beautician. So if you get into a taxi and say this incorrectly, you are going to end up in the very wrong place. Yes, these are two different things and categories in the Japanese mind. So please be very careful when you write and read and pronounce. All three, right? You have to be very careful. If you write the ya, you, or yo in the same height as the first character, you're going to read it incorrectly. It takes a little bit of practice. This ya, you, and yo, they're not tiny. They're just smaller than the other characters. So if you read more and more Japanese, you'll kind of get used to it. Initially, we're going to see these characters in isolation. It'll be very easy. But later on, you're going to see them in words and long strings of sentences. So for that, you should prepare your brain. Look for it till it'll look a little bit smaller. Yes. So that spacing is also important. You're not crushing them together. Give a little bit of gap, right? It's not going to be like this. It's not so close together. Yes? Not that close. Little bit of space. Great. So that's just enough me talking. I'd like everyone to practice pronounce these words, these sounds. Yes? We'll start with the first row one more time and then proceed downwards. The very first sound is?
Yeah.
Yes. Everybody together.
Yeah.
Kya.
Yeah.
Kya.
Yeah.
Q.
Great. The second sound?
Q.
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 Again, the same U sound. Yes, U. Q.
Q. Q.
Q. Q.
Last sound is?
Q.
Q. Yes.
Kya. Q. Q.
Well, all together. Kya.
Kya. Q. Q.
Q.
Yeah, Q.
Yeah.
Kya. Q. Q.
Q.
So the Y sound should be there. We should be able to hear it. In the next two rows, no Y sound. Okay. The reason is actually you're coming from shi and chi and ji over here. Think of it as just extending this group sound, right? That E is changing into A, U, and O. So you're getting more sounds in the same core consonant. So it becomes sha. Yes, you can say it confidently. Sha.
Sha. Sha.
Sha.
Sha.
Sha.
Shu.
Shu.
Sh. Sh.
Shu.
Sh. Sh.
To. To.
Shu.
Sha. Shu.
Sha.
Sha.
Shu.
Shu. Shu.
So. Sha. Shu. Shu.
Great. The next one. Cha.
Cha. Chu.
Cha. Chu. Chu.
Excellent. Cha. Chu.
Cha. Chu. Chu.
You don't have to work hard to bring in a yes sound here. It's not chia, chu, cho. It's very hard to try it also. It's not natural for the tongue.
Cha. Chu. Chu.
Just cha, chu, cho.
Chu.
Very simple. For the next few groups, we're going to have an easier time. This is nya,
Yeah.
Ya. Nyu. Nyu.
ya,
Yeah. New.
Cha.
Yeah. New.
nyo,
Nyo.
nya,
Nyo.
yu,
Yeah.
Nyu. Nyu.
nyo. Excellent. This might be a little difficult, but let's try. Hya,
Yeah.
hya,
Q,
Yeah.
Q,
Q.
Q,
Q,
Q.
Q,
Q,
Q.
Q,
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 Yeah.
Q. Yes. Yeah. Q,
Q,
Q.
Q.
Yeah.
Nya,
Nya,
Q, Q,
Mu,
Q, Mu,
Yeah.
Mu, Mu,
Mya, Mu.
Mu,
Yeah.
Mu.
Great. Probably the hardest one, if it's difficult, is Rya.
Yeah, yeah,
Rya. Rya,
Yu,
Yeah.
Yu,
Yo.
Yu,
Yo.
Yu.
Yes. The trick is the R part is very, very quick. It's just your tongue rolling off the top of your upper palate very quickly. Rya, ryu, ryo.
Yeah. Q,
Rya, ryu,
Yeah.
yo.
Yeah.
Ra, Ri, Ro, Ra, Ri, Ro,
Yes. Great.
Ra, Ri, Ro.
Now we have the voiced sounds and the per sounds, right? The last one is the per sound. So let's do the voiced ones first. Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
Yu, Yu,
Yeah.
Great. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yu,
Yeah.
Yu.
Here again, we don't have that y sound sneaking in. It's just ja,
Ja,
Yu,
Yeah.
Yu,
ja,
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 Yu, Ju,
Ja,
Yeah. Ju.
Ja,
Ju.
Ju, Ju.
bia,
Ja,
Ja,
bu,
Yu,
yo. Right? Bia, bu, yo.
Yeah. Pew. Pew.
Yeah.
beautiful.
Great. Lastly, pya,
Ja,
Ja.
Q,
Yeah. Yeah.
Q,
kyo.
Q,
Ja, kyu.
Yeah, Q, Q.
Great. The next trick to this is not confusing them with each other. For that, you need to be confident which is ya, which is you, and which is yo. Sometimes you'll read that as pya, or you read this as pyo. It happens. So we have to be confident between those three small characters. Otherwise, the pattern is always this, right? All of these are E sounds. The consonant ones, they always come from the E row of the original chart. That's the pattern. It'll never break this pattern. So you have these voiced sounds, the voiceless consonant, and the contracted sounds. Yes? With this, we're going to learn one more expression or phrase. I'll try. I'm not going to write it down. You just pronounce it for now because you need to learn something before I write it. It is the expression 大丈夫です.
Sure.
Has everyone heard of it? Yes. All right. Okay. Fine. It means a lot of different things. You can use it in so many places. When you want to ask if somebody has hurt themselves, the question form is ですか, right? 大丈夫ですか?
Can you repeat?
大丈夫ですか?
Daiju Desika.
So I will ask you when I finish something, 大丈夫ですか? And if you're okay, if it's fine, you can say 大丈夫です.
大丈夫です。
Daiju Desika.
Yes in Japanese is hi. Hi.
Hi.
Yes. So you can say
Hi.
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 If you're not okay with something, that's fine. I'm not saying you can't say that. Yes.
Yeah.
This is actually a long
Hi.
sound. E.
Hi.
E.
Yeah.
Yeah.
E. I don't get it.
EA for
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
Sometimes they repeat it. Ie. No, no. But usually we do the repetition thing when you want to reject something from someone. Like they compliment you and you want to be humble, say, it's not like that. I have a long way to go. Or would you like some more? It's like, I'm fine. I'm good. So usually they use it like that. When you want to give a flat no to something, just, I didn't get it. You can say, no.
Yeah.
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 Yes. So until now, Daijoubu desu ka?
Daijoubu desu ka?
Daijoubu desu ka?
Great. Anybody who has to say iie? In case I didn't catch your voice. Yes?
Iie.
Does anybody need clarifications? Any
Iie.
questions?
Iie.
What is for yes?
Yes is hi.
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 You have a question?
Yeah.
Okay. Yes. Okay, great. Then what we're going to do, this is just, I will post this in Google Classroom. I'm going to take a short break here and explain a few other things in between before we go to katakana. One of those is what's on the board right now. So this is a traditional chart that's used to practice, yes? No, this is not a game. It could be, but it's a bit soon. Next week, we'll play this together. Yes. Right now, I think some of you may still need more. So here, it's a basic chart. The idea is you have to fill it in. So when you're learning kana, when you're practicing, and you want, so we see the individual characters. You may use flashcards, you may use your workbook, you may use your textbook, any method. But when we use individual characters, it's hard to know which character is which when you have to fill in a chart like this. So this is the final, like, ultimate test, right? You take the complete blank chart and you fill it up with characters as well as you can remember, right? And you go in this order. This is the basic vowel group. A, I, U, E, O, ka, ki, ku, ke, ko, sa, shi, su, se, so, ta, chi, tsu, te, to, and so on. And it alone doesn't fit into that, so it's got a separate little corner here, poor thing. But that's the idea. I'm going to share this with you in Google Classroom. So over the week, as you're practicing, do this as a kind of checkpoint exercise at the end of each day. You can print it out. You can make this on your own on any notebook, right? You don't have to have a printout. You could use your tablet or iPad or whatever. The idea is, at the end of every day after you've done your revision, try to fill this in as well as you can remember. You don't need to submit this to me. I'm not going to check. Yes? I'm following the Tategaki order over here. So we're going in the traditional way of writing in Japanese. You can do it the other way too, if that's easier for you initially. That doesn't matter that much. The idea is we fill it in. When you fill it in, after you're done, be honest with yourselves. You're not cheating anyone except yourself. I hate to sound like a school teacher, but that's true. Just be honest with yourself. If you can only get one row, it's okay in the first try. But
Can you please explain it, madam, how to fill this? I'm not getting it.
you just have to fill it in according to this column. So the first column is the basic vowels. And then you follow it along the consonant rows. So this would be A, I, U, E, O. Like this. And then this will be ka, ki, ku, ke, ko, and so on. Sashi, like that.
Yeah.
Yes. And here, at the end, after you're done with the others, remember some of them don't have some sounds. These don't exist. You can block it out in the beginning. The point of this exercise is after 3 or 4 tries, you're going to be able to fill in more of this sheet. You're going to be more confident with many of the characters. But there will be those tricky characters that you keep getting wrong no matter what you do. It'll help you identify what that is so that you can give it special attention. Because those are things we don't catch otherwise. So try this exercise at the end of every day when you're reviewing hiragana this week. Do it once per day. You have 5 different sheets. It'll also show you your progress and what you need to work on. Yes, it's the traditional, tried and tested method. Now, on that note, I just want everyone to do a little bit of hiragana reading before I go into a few other things. Yes, let's try to read these words together, shall we?
Yeah.
You can use your textbook if you find it difficult. Yes? The first sound is?
Re.
N,
Go.
ko,
Go.
Go.
ko,
Yes.
ringo,
It's voiced, right?
Go.
Ringo
Ingo.
is apple. Yes? Bingo.
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 Mikan.
Mi.
Ka.
Ka.
In.
Mikan.
Mikan.
Mikan is orange. To be really picky and specific, this is a very specific variety of Mandarin orange that grows in Japan. They're kind of smaller, similar to oranges here. They're not like that big Florida orange, but it's okay. Initially, this is, they also say orangey. We'll go into that later. That's an imported word. So, mikan. This is a desk.
Sukoe. Ko.
Su.
Oh.
E.
Sukue.
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 Sukue. Great. Sukue.
Sukue.
She.
In.
In.
Fu.
Is it fu?
Fu.
Bu.
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 In.
In.
Shinbun.
Shimbun.
Shinbun.
Shin.
Shinbun.
Shimbun.
Shinbun.
Shimbun is a newspaper. Yes?
Newspaper. Shinbun.
Short word.
Phone.
On.
Or ho?
O.
Ha?
Ho.
O.
Ho?
In.
In.
On.
Yes.
On.
Home is
On.
a book.
Book.
On.
Yes, it's a pencil.
Pen.
A.
In.
In.
P.
E.
Su. Enpitsu.
Empitsu.
Enpitsu.
It's
Em-
Enpitsu.
Now let's try just reading the words in order. First one is
Ringo.
Ringo.
Bingo.
Mikan.
Mikan.
Pecan.
Sukue.
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 Shinbun.
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 Shimbun.
Shinbun.
Phone.
Shinbun.
Phone.
Home. Yes, not ham. Home.
On.
Enpitsu.
Empitsu.
Enpitsu.
Empitsu.
And
Great. You can note these words down if you want. We'll keep revisiting them. We'll hopefully know them very soon. Great.
and pitch.
Hi. So just a couple of, we'll take a small break for your throats and for your hands. Just a small few notes before we dive in. I usually say this once at the very beginning, but we tend to have students coming in late the first few classes and all that. So I don't like them to miss these things. So basically, we talked about this yesterday. One important aspect of culture that we're going to bring in immediately is punctuality. Be on time. Yes, and on time is 10 minutes early. That's what we mean by on time. 10 is not 10. 10 is 9:50. So our class starts at 11. Please try to be here by no later than 10:50. Yes, if you're joining us online, you can log into the Zoom room by 10:50, right? Sometimes we have some technical issues, but be at the ready on your computer by that time. The next thing is we're learning a language here. This is true for any kind of learning or skill, but all the more so for languages. Take it from somebody who has learned a language for 7 years and then thoroughly forgotten it. That was French. If you don't practice every day and work hard, you will forget. Just coming to class is not enough. Just doing this for 2 hours a week, 4 hours a week is not enough, right? Some of my teachers, like one of my really close teachers, he used to work so hard. He used to go to work by 8 a.m. in the morning and come home by 6 p.m. And then he would be working on Japanese in the morning for those first 3 or 4 hours. He'd wake up by 4 or 5 a.m., study Japanese, go to work, come home, and then he'd work on Japanese until like 12 at night. That's how dedicated he was. I'm not saying I was that. I'm just giving an example of why it worked. That is hard work. It will pay off. I'm not saying you need to put in that kind of time right now, Maybe in the future, as you level up and you have that much to study. But at the CJAT 1 level, this is something Balasan also spoke about on your first day during the inauguration. 1 hour a day is a really good target. If you can meet that, you're going to be comfortable. If you cannot meet 1 hour, as Shimizu Sensei mentioned, open your book and try to read at least what was covered. That may take 20 minutes to half an hour. No less than that. Language means keeping in touch. It'll fall right out otherwise. Yes, I cannot stress this enough. It is important. You have to put in on what's from your side for what's coming from my side to work. Yes. So you have your textbooks. It's all designed to work. It's designed, those of you who want to pass JLPT exam, it's designed for that too. But you need to put in the time. Of course, an important aspect of Japanese culture is also respect to other people. So please be polite and be aware, be considerate of others' needs, and try as much as possible not to disturb without it being beneficial to others also. So if you have a question, that's perfectly fine. Many others may also have a question, so please ask. If it's something a bit more personal, you can save it for after class maybe and ask me in person, or online. You can wait until the others have left. And lastly, have fun. Yes, I have found that the best way to learn anything is to enjoy it. If it becomes a chore, your brain doesn't want to do it and it's not going to take any. There's this old proverb, right, about the bucket being half full or too full. If it's full, you're not going to take anything in. So come in empty and have fun and take it all in. Yes. A few notes about your materials. I've already told you about your textbook and your workbooks. Along with your textbook, you would have received a CD. Unfortunately, we don't live in the era of CDs anymore. So I can understand if some of you don't have CD players. The materials on the CDs are available in your Hayakawa login. So all of you would have received credentials. So if you go to hayakawa.in, there's a place in the top right corner. You can log in. You have to put in your student ID and your password. And you go into the portal. That portal is so useful for so many things, right? You can see recorded videos of our classes. So in case you want to review something, you want to remember what was explained in class or something, you missed taking notes, you can go back and see the recordings anytime. Yes, but this doesn't mean you miss class. Remember, those of you who are here for your scholarship, yes, attendance is an important part of that. So please try not to miss class unless it's something really, really important. The videos are only for review. Yes, but they're available. The CD materials are also there on the website. So if you log in, the same page where you have the recorded videos, if you scroll down a bit, there's these accordion buttons. You click and then it expands. And then you have this tab called Media. You can find the CD materials there. Yes. So please use the student login. You also have something called the course schedule. I'll share that on the screen just now. It's there in your student login also. As we learn, as we complete the lessons in the textbook, there's going to be exercises for each lesson. There will be some exercises in your textbook. There will be exercises on the online portal. That's part of your homework. That's why we're covering typing very early on. I'll be teaching you how to type in Japanese next weekend. So please come equipped with laptops when you come next weekend. I'll talk about that in a minute. You need to start doing your homework online. This is also a way that we make sure our students get practice typing in Japanese right away. Because once you go and join the workforce, you're going to have to hash out emails and messages all the time. You need to be prepared. So we have lesson exercises as well. I'll just quickly show you this course schedule. I have to change the screen share. Yes. So this is the course schedule, right? And it starts on 14th April when we had our inaugural day. And then it'll show you what the course structure and plan is. Mostly I'll be on track. Sometimes I get a little fast or sometimes I fall a little behind. Okay. Oh. Oh, it's pointing down. I'll just adjust it. Thank you. Sorry, I'll just adjust the camera. Now I think it's okay. So over here, we'll mostly be on schedule, maybe with a few spillovers here and there. This is the homework you're supposed to do throughout the week. Yes, it may not be very detailed, but it just gives you an idea of what you need, what time you need to be putting in to stay on track. If you're able to do this, put in this absolute minimum, you're going to be okay. Yes. So please refer this. It's there in your student login. You'll be able to download the PDF. After we start kanji, kanji will also be your homework. Yes, you have to practice writing kanji and reading kanji regularly. And after a certain number of lessons, we won't be covering kanji in class. There are separate recorded videos. Each one is about 10 to 15 minutes. So you have to watch the video at home and then practice. Yes, because I like to save class time for interactive things. Kanji is very one way. You can self-study kanji after a point. But other things you need to practice in class. So we're going to do that after a point. You'll have to look at your schedule and stay on track, right? It also gives you an idea of how we're going to go about covering the material. Is this okay, the schedule part?
Hi.
大丈夫ですか? Great. So let me share this PowerPoint again. Right. And lastly, the most important thing, Google Classroom. This is how I will be staying in touch with you throughout the week. We're meeting only on weekends, right? Saturdays and Sundays. So during the week, if you're working on Japanese and you have any questions, if you have any doubts, you can ask me via Google Classroom. I will open a thread for general questions. This doesn't mean all the other students can see your questions. There is a place where you can put in private messages to me. I'll make sure I open that so that you can go and do that. If it says private, then it'll come only to me. So you can do that. You can post any questions or doubts that you have over there, right? It's the C1 200th batch Google Classroom. You should have already received instructions on how to join from the admin team. I will be posting any additional materials. There are some materials I create on my own for classes. They're not a part of the textbook. They're not on the student website. Something just extra depending on how our class goes. So those materials are shared in Google Classroom. And sometimes I share a little extra homework. And I say homework, but the idea is to give you practice. So there'll be like little quizzes, little 5-minute things that you can take in Google Forms to practice what we've learned. That's all going to be in Google Classroom. So please get on this so we can stay in touch Monday to Friday if you have any questions. Is it okay?
Yeah.
Great. One last thing that is about typing. The instructions for how to install Japanese keyboard would have been shared with you when you joined the course, right? So please go home, take this week to try to install the Japanese keyboard and make sure it's working. Follow those instructions, make sure it's working, and bring your laptops next weekend. Bring it on Saturday itself if you can. I'll try to start on Saturday also. And Sunday, we'll do a more dedicated class. If you have any issues installing the keyboard, making it work, you can get in touch with the admin team. They'll be able to help. Yes? It's the instructions are shared with you in the email when you join the course. You can check with the admin team.
Excuse me, ma'am.
Not very difficult. Yes?
Which type of Japanese should we install? Hiragana, right?
Oh, I think in Apple computers, it'll give you multiple choices. Yeah, go with Hiragana. It'll automatically change if you need to change it.
Okay.
If you have any trouble, you can either ping in Google Classroom or contact the admin team. Yes, so please do install and get it ready. Some of you may not have laptops or computers if you're not using one yet. In that case, at least a mobile device so you can get the hang of it. But that is like only if you don't have a laptop. If you're planning to work in a Japanese environment in the future, please bring the laptop. It's much more helpful long-term than just doing it on your phone. Great. All right, so that's that. A little bit of learning, a little bit of theory before we go back into katakana. So we've learned about 3 scripts so far. They are kanji, hiragana, katakana. Right? Kanji is derived from Chinese. Hiragana is for native Japanese words and for grammar. Katakana is for foreign words, right? Loan words. Some interesting things about Japanese that you should know up front. Every Japanese word has a polite form and a plain form. Plain can be called any number of things. Sometimes they say casual form, right? It's not rude, it's just casual. Whereas polite is respectful, right? Towards your listener. We're going to start with polite and work our way to plain later on. That's less important in speech, but very important in grammar. So we will be learning both, right? Showing respect, it's built into the language. So we're going to learn that. One huge relief for those of you who've tried learning other languages, Japanese doesn't have gender, right? Like in Hindi, we have feminine and masculine even for objects, right? In French, in German, in Spanish, even in Sanskrit, you have masculine and feminine. But Japanese does not have that. Like in Tamil, we're kind of saved that trouble of learning that. Japanese also doesn't have number. That is to say, when we change the number of people involved in an action, the verb sometimes changes. In English, this happens, right? He cooks, we cook, right? The S is dropped, add the S. Those little changes are there. Doesn't exist in Japanese. Doesn't matter who is doing the action, doesn't matter how many people are doing the action, doesn't matter if it's male or female or a dog, nothing changes, right? It's the same across everything. So it's actually easy here, but this is what makes it difficult. Polite versus plain. Another thing that makes Japanese difficult to approach from an English point of view is the basic sentence structure. So if I say SOV, SVC, all that, some of you may remember things from school. Yes? What is the basic English sentence structure?
Subject, object, verb.
This is subject, object, verb. In English, it is subject,
Yes,
verb,
Verb,
object, right? He threw the ball, right? Subject, verb, object. Yes? And verbs are compulsory. You cannot have an English sentence without a verb. It is the main requirement. But Japanese is a little bit different there. Verbs come at the end of sentences. This is similar to Indian languages. And objects come before verbs. And there can be sentences without verbs. In a really strict sense, it's complicated. But basically, the way we'll be learning, you can even make sentences without verbs. Right? So that's also a little tricky. But if you need, you can translate to your mother tongue if it helps. There are only 2 core tenses in Japanese language. Does anyone remember how many there are in English? 12. 12 tenses, right? You have past, you have present, you have future, and then you have the perfect tenses, the continuous tenses, so many. Strictly speaking, there are only 2 in Japanese. You do have continuous, but it's not considered a tense. We'll be learning that, but it's a little simple, thankfully. I'll come back to accent later. As I said, it's very flat, evenly distributed. And pronunciation, we've learned the basic vowels. We've learned the basic consonants. What we're yet to learn are long vowels and double consonants, right? So these 2 are pending. We'll actually be learning this next Saturday. It's a little complex. So we'll come back to this. This is like, instead of it's Instead of E, it's E, right? Elongated. Double consonant, or when you hold and give stress to a consonant sound, right? Like pattu, right? We hold that it sound. We have something like that in Japanese too. We'll be seeing that next weekend. For now, you got a bit of a break. We're coming back to katakana. The rules of katakana are the same as the rules of hiragana as far as the core characters are concerned. You follow the same stroke pattern, same stroke order, and you even have the same sounds. Yes? So let's just dive into it. Any questions before we start? Yes?
Is katakana similar to Chinese?
I'm glad you asked. 1 second. I think I had a slide on that. Yes, please have a seat. So here in this chart, you have the right-hand side characters. These are actually Chinese characters or kanji, and then you have the left-hand side characters. Unlike hiragana, which is a simplification, that is, you're taking the strokes and you're like simplifying, getting lazier and reducing it to just 2 or 3 strokes. What's happened with katakana is often they were taken directly out of out of kanji and made into characters. So this is a kanji. Just one part of that kanji became a katakana. Sometimes it's also a kanji of its own. We'll see that later on. Sometimes there's mild modifications in the angle or strokes, but it's almost exactly the same in many places. This is how katakana was formed. So they're actually parts of kanji, parts of Chinese characters. So although katakana may feel like a chore compared to hiragana, as you practice this week, you'll see why. It is actually extremely useful. When you learn kanji, you will recognize katakana in parts of kanji, and you'll know how to write those parts because you've already written them before. Right? So this is a bit of a shortcut when we come to kanji in the future. Any other questions before we start? Daijoubu desu ka? Dewa. Well then, we can get started. We have the first character. I'd like everyone to get their workbooks out, kana workbooks. Write it a couple of times, like yesterday. Yes. Shall we start? The very first is looks like a sideways A little bit. I've heard that from people. Anybody else can find any other resemblances? Sorry? P. English P. A little bit. A very J. Yeah, actually it does look like it. Yeah. You can see it. Yes. So
X.
2 strokes. 1, 2. Already you can feel it's simpler than hiragana, right? Remember how A was. This is A. Next one is even simpler. This is E. 2 strokes also. 1, 2. It looks a bit like a dotted I, but instead of a dot, you have a stroke, right? So 1, 2. E.
A.
A.
That is team.
A T? Yeah, maybe it looks like a T going the wrong direction. T or E, anything that helps you remember. Next is U. U. So U may look a little tricky with the strokes, but you're following the same pattern. Topmost stroke first, and then you're moving from left to right. Same pattern. 1, 2, 3. Generally, strokes like this, these 7 kind of direction strokes, right? Shape strokes, they tend to be a single stroke. You won't break it up. You won't make it 1, 2. This is quite rare. You will make it as 1 stroke as far as possible in Japanese. You can keep that in mind. Even in kanji, the same will happen. It need not be slanting, even if it's straight like this. Like this, it will be 1 stroke. You won't write it as 2 strokes. So for U, 1, 2, 3. Yes, topmost, left to right.
Now, more one.
So A, E, U, A. I know this can be confusing. It looks like a capitalized English I, right? So Pretend there's this here. Try to remember it like this. The upper stroke is shorter than the lower one. Yes. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Top down. A. And lastly,
A.
this is O. O. 1, 2, 3. Same pattern. Horizontal, vertical, last stroke. Sorry. 1, 2, 3.
Like a tree.
This will actually come in a kanji that we will learn in this level. Much later on though. So a, I, U, A, O is done. The first consonant row is ka. Fantastic. Ka. Katakana ka looks very similar to hiragana ka, but around here, it's quite sharp, right? Whereas in hiragana, it was quite curvy. Here, it's a bit sharp. And it does not have a third stroke. That's it, just these two. In fact, this is a kanji also. There's a kanji that looks almost exactly like this, which even has the sound of ka, but don't worry for now. When you learn that, it'll be easy. So 2 strokes. 1, 2. Ka. Next is ki. Katakana ki is also similar to hiragana ki, right? It doesn't have that last stroke in the bottom. The stroke length here for the horizontal strokes is a little different. So please be a bit careful about that. 1, 2, 3. The order is the same. It's very simple, right? But even katakana, you can see, it doesn't tend towards symmetry, right? Even though it's angular and sharp, it's still not perfectly symmetrical. It's slanted, angled. I think that's just a preference of this, of the mindset. So ka, ki, ku. 1, 2. Again, you can see how this is like this 7-shaped stroke, right? This type.
Yeah.
So it's 1 stroke. Don't break it up. 1, 2. Ha, ki, ku, he. This is easy, right? Looks exactly like an English K.
Yes.
So 1, 2, 3. Left to right, top to bottom. 1, 2, 3. Please do be aware of that angle over there, right? You're not going to write a straight K like this. It's kind of slanted. And this, it's not attached over here. It's off to the center. 1, 2, 3. And lastly, ko. So ka, ki, ku, ke, ko. The first stroke of ko, it looks like an incomplete box actually. If you look at the whole thing, it's missing 1 stroke. It's 1 stroke short of being a box. The first stroke is this whole thing, right? It's kind of an elbow stroke, like this 7. Don't break it up. It's a single stroke. Again, it follows the same logic of writing with a brush. When you're moving this way, it's easier to control than this way if you're a right-handed person. And majority of writing happened on the right hand in most cultures. Ko. So ka, ki, ku, ke, ko. Next group is sa. Ka. This is quite a different character. Like from what you've seen in hiragana. 1, 2, 3. Usual pattern. Horizontal, vertical, vertical, moving from left to right. One, 2, 3. After sa? Okay, so she. This one is going to get a little theoretical. I'd like everyone to look at your textbooks in this textbook. Forgot this. The big one. Look at your katakana entire chart and tell me which other characters look like she.
So,
So,
so, so,
Shoe.
no. Yes, there are 4 or 5 characters that look incredibly similar. So you may be a little concerned of how you remember them apart. There is a difference. Of the 5, which 2 look the most similar?
so,
And she look very similar. And so and right? So and Yeah, there's actually a small difference if you look very carefully. So let's take a look at what that difference is. And that has to do with stroke order and direction, right? In the case of she, you're actually moving like this against the left margin, right? Of this square, closer to the left margin, you're moving downwards and then moving upwards. You can tell by the alignment of these 2 little dots, right? They're more aligned to this side, moving downwards and then moving up. This is the natural movement. 1, 2, 3, like that. It looks like a smiley face, right? Maybe a little creepy, but it's a smiley face. So 1, 2, she is happy, right? 1, 2, 3. When you come to tsu, you can flip the page if you want, or you can just see the board. You're going to keep the alignment to the top. 1, 2, 3. Goes like this. Those little dots will be aligned to the top of the square, whereas here it's to the left. You can remember that in whatever way helps, but she is to the left. Tsu is to the top. Maybe tsu, top, they start with T, something. Yes, yes? Sorry? Rashmi, yeah, please go ahead. Similarly, you have 2 others that have 1 stroke less than she and tsu, right? They're very similar otherwise. This is so. This is It's a little harder with this case because you have only 1 dot, but the pattern is the same. So follows the pattern of tsu. It's aligned to the top and moves downward. Follows the pattern of she. It's aligned to the side and moves upward. The angle of that long stroke will also be able to tell you the difference. This is the difference. No is basically only 1 stroke, so you can remember it. Think of it like saying no and rejecting something, just cutting it with a big red mark. No. The other 4 are the challenging ones. So a small mnemonic I suggest when we learn this is couple them together, right? So she and tsu, when you write it in English, how many letters are there? 3, right? So they have 3 strokes each. Unfortunately, so and don't have that advantage. But what I do next is couple these 2. They follow the same pattern. She has more strokes, right? And so and tsu follow the same pattern. This has 1 more stroke. So she and follow this pattern. So and tsu follow this pattern. They say aligned to the same side. How do you remember them together? For that, I use Japanese. When I learned, I knew some Japanese words. So shin means new. Doesn't help, but it's a word. So you can just remember them together. Shin, right? It's going together. Then Sotsu. There's this word, sotsugyo. It means graduation. So it's not connected to this. I just used it to remember the sounds together. Right? So sotsu, they're together. Yes, the alignment is the same. They're to the top. Only by writing this again and again can you get the hang of this. So please keep writing it and write them together. In your workbook, they're separate. So if you have a notebook, or I think there are some blank sheets at the end of your textbook, you can use that space too. Just write with a pencil these characters next to each other. So you get a feel for how they look different. Is this okay? 大丈夫ですか? Hi. Everybody online? Yes. Okay. So I'll just clear the slide once and maybe just write them all one more time. So this is she, right? She. So, tsu, and no. Great. So she. We're coming back to the original here. Sa, she,
Su.
su. Right? This is not tsu, just su.
Su.
2 strokes. Again, you have an elbow type stroke here. It's 1 stroke. This is 1 stroke. And then 1 more. I believe there's a Hangul character that looks exactly like this in Korean, like ja or something. 1, 2. Sa, she, su, se, se. Katakana se looks a little bit like hiragana se, but with 1 less stroke. This is aligned right to the center. Same order as usual, horizontal, vertical. Sa, she, su, se, so. Now you know the trick. So follows the pattern of which other character? Tsu, right? So it's aligned to the top. You can also see the brush stroke is thicker over here, right? In the case of she, it was thicker in the bottom because that's where it started. Where you keep the brush, it will be thick. It's harder. You cannot show this in handwriting nowadays. It's not going to come out with pens and pencils, but you can see it in printed forms a little easier. Please have a seat. So this is so, right? Aligned to the top. Sa, she, su, se, so. The next one is ha, ha,
Ta.
ha.
Ta.
Now, ta looks a lot like something we just saw earlier. What is this? Ku. Right? Up until this, it's almost exactly like ku. We're adding 1 more stroke to that. So just like how you have to cross your T's, you can think of it as that thing crossing your T. You have to have that stroke. Otherwise, it's not ha yet. It's incomplete. 1, 2, 3. Ha. You'll see this also in kanji. There's 1 kanji in this lesson, in this level. Ha. Chi. Right? Chi. Now, chi. That very first stroke of chi can look a bit unusual because usually horizontal strokes, we go from left to right. Right? But this is actually a slanting stroke. So it's considered a top to bottom stroke. So we're going to follow that pattern. Top to bottom, left to right, then intersect. 2, 3. This is chi. Ha, chi, pu. Right? Which pattern does tsu follow? Same as? So, yes, exactly. It's aligned to the top, right? 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Aligned to the top and moving downward. Tsu. 3 strokes, right? Shi and tsu have 3 strokes each. Ta, chi, tsu,
So,
te. Te and chi look very similar, right? So this is chi, 1, 2, 3. Whereas in te, this part is not connected, right? And also this is a proper horizontal stroke. So it's going to move from left to right. It doesn't have that strong slant the first stroke of chi does. 1, 2, 3. Te. So the way I learned te was, again, I knew a little bit of Japanese. So te was the word for hand. So I used to think of this as the wrist plus a closed fist. Like this is the fist, the back of the hand, and this is the wrist. So that's how I learned te. So there's nothing over here in between, right? It's just a blank back of your hand. Apparently no fingers though. So this is te. And lastly, ho. Ha, chi, tsu, te, to. Excellent. Maybe somebody trying to reach their toes. I don't know. That would be me. I'm not flexible at all. I could not reach my toes even if, maybe if I bent my knees. Ta, chi, tsu, te, to. Next is na. Just 2 strokes, right? We can feel how easy katakana is. Number of strokes are so few in general. Hiragana na. This is like just that little part made simpler. Na. After na,
Ni.
ni. Okay. I'll quickly, there's a 2-in-1 story for this one I always like to use. And you'll learn some kanji while you're at it. The word ni in Japanese means and the kanji for the first 3 numbers are very simple. 1,
Ichi.
hi.
Ni.
The
Ni.
kanji is this.
San.
Ni, so many of you know it. Yes. Ni is 1, 2, 2 strokes. And 3 is?
San.
Yes, 3 strokes. Very simple. Ichi, ni, san. Yes. We'll learn more about the numbers later on, but basically, the kanji and the katakana look nearly identical. There's such a minor difference, it doesn't matter. So you can learn that along with this, right? Katakana ni, right? Number 2, 2 strokes. Looks a bit like equal to sign. Please maintain the distance, the length of the lines. The proportion is very important. If you write an equal sign, it's no longer going to look like Japanese. Ni, not san. Next shift. Nu. It's nu.
No.
If I were to write my name in Japanese, I would use this, right? We're all not Japanese people. So when we write our names for a Japanese person, the polite thing to do is write it in katakana using Japanese sounds. So if you have sounds in your name that are not corresponding directly to Japanese sounds, you have to come to the closest approximate. Take a guess, it's okay. Or ask a Japanese person how you can write it for their convenience. So mine is very easy. I got lucky. Nu, ja. They have all 3 sounds. Yes. So this is nu. 1 elbow stroke and 1 cutting stroke. Nu. Na, Ni, nu, ne. I say this about ne every time, but for some reason, ne doesn't feel like a Japanese character to me. It feels like hieroglyphics. Have any of you seen hieroglyphics? Egyptian characters? Yes? Yeah? Do you feel it looks a little bit like that? Yeah? I don't know why. I just
Looks-
do.
Tree.
Yeah?
It looks like a tree.
It looks like a tree. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a nice, very pretty tree, very aesthetic tree. One stroke on top, you're moving to the bottom. Elbow stroke, right? This is one. Don't break it up. 2, 3, 4. Ne. And lastly, no. Yes, you're just striking something out. No. Top to bottom, right? Typical vertical stroke. Na, ni, nu, ne, no. What's the next group start with?
Ha.
Ha. Another 2 for 1. The number 8 in Japanese is, does anyone know? Yes. Wow, so many of you know this. Hachi. Yes. Hachi means 8. The reason I link this is the kanji for hachi looks very similar to this. So this is the kanji. And you can think of this as a simplified version of that kanji. So, and another beautiful thing, it's one of the rare kanjis that has 2 almost even parts. And 8 is, of course, perfectly divisible by 2. You can use all kinds of math to help you learn kanji, help you learn Japanese. So ha, 1, 2. It's also considered a lucky number in Japan. And I've heard that this is because the kanji has this appearance of opening outward. これ本当ですか？桑木さん、すみません。これ、ちょっと広めているようなことが運がいいという。開ける、はい、そういうことですね。So yes, because kind of opens out. It gives a good fortune in the future. So ha,
He.
He. So sorry for the morbid imagery. I like to think of this as a person, but unfortunately they're headless. So a headless person sitting and holding their hands up. The reason I think of it this way is he also has the meaning of light or sun. Not in katakana, but just the sound. So it's like someone praying to the sun or something like that. This is one way that I learned this. Otherwise, a little bit difficult katakana. 2 strokes. Yes. He. Ha. He.
Hu.
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 Yes. Hu. 1
Hu.
stroke. Yes, 1 stroke. There's another katakana that looks very similar to this. Actually, 2 of them. One we already saw. Yes. Nu. There's also su. Su. And you also have ra. We haven't come to ra yet. Just keep it in mind. Ru, was it? Did I hear something else? Nu.
Nu.
Sorry? Ru. Ru. Ah, yes, it's looks like it's facing the other way. Yeah. Ulta, yeah, upside down. So this is hu. Maybe you can, because it's got only 1 stroke, you can come with some simple story, like when you're blowing on something. When you cross a certain age, people can't put the number of candles in your cake as your age anymore, right? So you can blow that 1 candle out very easily. Hu. Next is?
He.
She.
Same as hiragana. Yes. He. He. Ha. He. Hu. He. Ho. This is also a rarely kind of even looking katakana. So you know the pattern by now, right? Horizontal, intersecting vertical, you finish the center stroke and then add the flanking strokes. Flanking strokes generally move outward from the center. Generally. Right? You're moving out like this. Even in the case of ha, we saw this, right? You're not going to write it like this. That's very unnatural. This is natural. Ha, hi, hu, he, ho. Next is ma. Maybe. You could think of it like an M on its side. Very incomplete M. Or a hanger, which won't help you. Ma. One, right? Again, elbow strokes are always single strokes. 1, 2. Ma. Next is ni.
Ni.
1, 2, 3. I have a story again for this one. So we learned the 3 numbers in Japanese, right? Ichi, ni, san. San, I told you the kanji looked like this, right? Kind of a slanted, shortened, simplified. They tried to make it look different from san, basically. And it looks like this. But what's the connection? Mi. Now, something very interesting. This ichi, ni, san that we all know, they're actually derived from Chinese pronunciation of these numbers. So in Japan, when they imported kanji, right, from China, they were already speaking Japanese in their country. And Chinese people were speaking Chinese. But Japanese people also used to speak Chinese because they had diplomatic relations with Chinese people. They would learn the language and they thought China was amazing, right? China was the pinnacle of civilization. So it's kind of similar to how people in the West learned Latin or something. It's to show how educated you are, your position, your power, all that. So they used to learn Chinese also. Now that's tricky. They're using Chinese characters for Chinese also, for Japanese also. Got very confusing. Now, one of those things, of course, in Japanese, they had a way of speaking of certain things already. So the Japanese way of counting and this is the third one. 1 is hito. So sometimes you can add this. We'll see that later. We'll study this later. Don't worry. 2 is
Futa.
futa, futatsu, sometimes they say. And 3 is ni. This is the native Japanese way of counting. And this was derived from a Chinese way of counting. In Japan, they use both today, in modern Japan. But this is the origin. So that's why this mi sound has an association with number 3. So you don't have to remember all this if it's a lot. Just a way to remember the katakana for now. We'll come back to it later. Right? So this is ni, 3 strokes. 1, 2, 3. Please note the slant. That's very important. So ma, ni, mu.
Mu.
Mu. Mu. I find that ma and mu are a little easy to confuse. This is kind of like a V, right? English V, a little bit of an edge. This is mu. Ma, mi, mu.
May.
May. May. It's like nu without that upper part of the stroke, right? This is nu. This is may. Easy to confuse. So if you have an easy way to remember, I use the same story for this may as the other may. Do you remember what story I gave for hiragana may? Oh no, I didn't think she'd
I.
ask at all.
Snake eyes.
Eye. Like the eye of a snake, right? So I use the same story for this. It looks like there's an eye over here, right? Where it's crossing. Me and mo. Katakana mo follows the normal pattern of stroke order, unlike hiragana mo. So we're going top to bottom. 1, 2, 3. Mo. Ma, mi, mu, me, mo. The next set. Yes. Ya. It's a very sharp version of hiragana ya. Hiragana ya, you're kind of curving like this, and you had an extra stroke. Katakana ya, just 2 strokes. 1, 2. Ya. The next trick will be, when you write modified characters, make sure you don't mix up hiragana and katakana together. Yes, you like for kya, if you write hiragana ki and katakana ya together, that's a mistake. You have to keep it one script at a time. Mostly hiragana and katakana don't mix together. If they do, it'll be in words that's like one part of the word is hiragana, another part is katakana, like a portmanteau word. So ya.
You.
What does you look like? Oh, number 1. Okay. I kind of see it. 1, like this. Maybe. You. Maybe actually. So yusho means prize, first prize, champion, something like that. So maybe number 1, you can connect that. I don't know. I never thought of that. It's a new story. I used to feel it's similar to ko. So you have to be careful with that extra protrusion. You.
Yo.
And yo. Yes. Like a mirror of English E, right? Same stroke pattern, right? Elbow stroke is a 1 single stroke. 1, 2, 3, like this. Yo. Ya, you, yo. We have one more group. Ra. Yes, which I mentioned looks a bit like hu with 1 extra stroke, right? Now, hu is just a breath, right? Just a single breath, hu. Ra, you need that extra component. You need to add a thing with your tongue. You need to do some work. That could be that extra stroke. That extra step with your tongue. Ra. It's a short stroke on top and then an elbow stroke like this, right? 1, 2.
Ra.
Ra. Yes. Next is?
Ri.
Ri. Yes. Ri was derived directly out of kanji. It's very similar to hiragana ri. So please be careful. Hiragana ri, you have that hook. And it's looking a bit more curvy than this. It's very kind of straight. That hook makes a lot of difference. That's why I say it characterizes that particular letter. It's part of its identity. So ri, r, r. 1, 2, 2 strokes. So both the 7 type strokes and the L type strokes
Ru.
Direction and this direction, they will always be single strokes. So this kind of falls into that category. 1, 2. Ru, re looks like the right side of ru, but made bigger. I like to think of it as a rake. Re,
Re.
rake. Like something, a tool that you use to shovel your garden. Re, ra, ri, ru, re. Last is ro. Ro is the completed box. Yes. One thing I want to tell you about complete boxes, generally speaking, you'll start from the left and move clockwise. The bottom stroke will be the last stroke. That's the pattern. You'll close it with this. It's true for anything box shape that'll come in kanji as well. In this case, 1, 2, 3. You'll close the box. And then you'll pierce through it with that last stroke. We'll learn this kanji in lesson 4. Just to show you, the pattern follows through. So, ra, ri, ru, re, ro. Wa. Yes. So you had hu. Ra. And now you have wa, which is a bit similar to u also. This is wa, right? You have something in front. So I like to go to it from hu. Hu is the breath. Wa, you're using your lips a bit more, right? Wa, you're putting a bit more effort. That's this. You're blocking it in front with your lips. Wa. Wa. One more sound in this. This character is almost never used, but we'll just learn it anyway. That is O. I've seen this written both ways. You can either do this as one stroke or 2 separate strokes. Both ways seem to be acceptable. You're not going to use it much, so it's okay. And lastly, which pattern does this follow? Same as shti. Fantastic. It's aligned to the left margin and moves upward. Excellent. Shi and both aligned to the left. Great. So this is the katakana chart. It's basically the same as hiragana chart. And just like with hiragana, you have the modified sounds and the contracted sounds. I'm not going to run through this. We just saw this today. But the same rules apply. You're taking the ka sounds in katakana and adding the dakuten, the voicing mark. You make it the ga group. Sa group becomes the za group. Ha, ta becomes da, and so on. The same exception sounds are also seen here. And ha group, when it voices, it becomes ba. When it's voiceless and becomes labial, it's ha. The same pattern. And the same pattern again for modified characters. You're taking the E group sound, and all of them, and adding small ya, small u, and small yo in katakana. This is very important. It's easy in the early stages to mix up katakana and hiragana together. So please be a bit careful about that. Until this, daijoubu desu ka? Now, I'm just going to share a few words. We'll try reading together. The thing on top, it's okay if you have trouble, but we'll just try to read it. Before you read that, there are going to be some reading things in here that we haven't learned yet. We'll come to it next weekend. But I thought we can get started using expressions in class, right? Some more Not just ohayo gozaimasu, arigatou gozaimasu and all. Few more, yes? So first, what does the heading say? Little by little. Let's go one character at a time. Ku, ra, yeah, you can check your textbook. Su. Is everybody online also? You can try to read, yes. Kurasu. This is actually class.
Kurasu.
It's actually class.
Kurasu.
Yes. Kurasu. Class. This is actually separate. We're going to see this separately. It's de. De. Su.
Sukau.
U. Sukau.
Sukau.
And
Kau.
ho. Ho.
Kotoba.
Ba. Kotoba.
Kotoba.
Kurasu. De. Sukau.
Sukau. Kotoba.
Kotoba. Kurasu de tsukau kotoba. Kurasu de tsukau kotoba. This was just practice. You don't need to know, understand it. But actually, it's class. This is kind of like tsukau means use, and kotoba means words. So words you use in class. Yes, words that we will be using, expressions that we will be using in class. Don't worry about the grammar part or even the words. That's not important. So please clean the ha, ji,
Aji.
Me.
e,
Rafte.
Masu.
ma,
Su.
su.
Hajime masu.
Hajime masu.
Hajime masu.
Hajime masu.
So sometimes that last su sound, right? Native Japanese speakers may not pronounce the u very strongly. They might just say hajimemasu. Both are acceptable. You can pick whichever is comfortable for you. Hajimemasu is also fine. Hajimemasu is also fine. It means to begin, right? I will be using that mostly. When I'm starting class, I will say, I'm going to start. Hajimemasu. The opposite of hajimemasu is
O.
o,
Wa.
wa,
Ri.
ri,
Arimasu.
Owarimasu. Su.
Owarimasu.
owarimasu. Owarimasu means to end, to finish, to come to a close. Right? Again, something I might use at the end of class. Owarimasu. Okay? Immediately you will see that they both end with the same sound. We'll talk about that later. Yes, it's a polite way of the ending of a verb. I already told you these. Yes and no.
Hai. Iye.
Hi,
Hai.
Iye.
e.
Iye.
This is a long E sound. We'll talk about it next weekend, but just to get started. Hi. Yes, and e. No. Great. We know this one already. Su, mi, ma, se, n. Sumimasen. Sumimasen. Excuse me.
Sumimasen.
Yes. Excuse me, or I'm sorry. Now, when you want to ask a question in class, you can start by doing this. Sumimasen, sensei. You can just announce yourself. Then I will know, okay, then you have a question. And I will ask you to proceed. So, sumimasen. When you're coming in late or you're interrupting the class for any particular reason, that's also a good time to use sumimasen. Hi. Wa,
Wakarima.
Ri.
ri,
Ma.
Wakarimasen.
ma, se,
Se.
wakarimasen.
Wakarimasen.
Wakarimasen. I don't understand, right? So masu is the affirmative form. Masen is the negative form. Again, we'll learn all this later, but the don't part of this comes from that masen sound. I don't understand. Can you guess what I do understand would be? Wakarimasu.
Arimasu.
Yes, wakarimasu is I understand. Wakarimasen, I don't understand. Those of you who like to watch things in Japanese or listen to things, you might know wakaranai. Wakarimasu and masen are polite. Wakaranai is casual or plain form. We are going to start with polite. Okay? So, yes? It's basically bringing in the meaning of a polite ending. Yes, the masu and masen are polite in nature. So if it has that ending, the verb is being addressed in a polite form. That's the only meaning, actually. Now, this is a bit long. I'm going to break it up. Let's do the first ones first, this first bit. This is
Mo.
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 It's got a sound. I'll talk about this next week. Okay? Just pronounce it as mo.
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 Then?
I.
Ichido.
I. Do.
Do. Yes. Mo ichido. Mo ichido. Ichido means one time. Mo ichido means one more time. Yes, once again, one more time. So ichi is one, right? Do is, you add it to talk about the number of times. Nido is twice. Sando is 3 times. So ichido is one time. Mo ichido, one more time. Now this is a long expression, but it's very, very important in Japanese.
Onegai shimasu.
Hi. O ne ga I shimasu. Onegai shimasu.
Onegai shimasu.
Onegai shimasu.
Fantastic. As you can tell,
Onegai shimasu.
it's polite. Onegai shimasu. Very useful. It's like sumimasen and arigatou gozaimasu. You have to use it very often. It's like please. When you make a request to another person to do something for you, you use this expression. Onegai shimasu. I request of you, please. That's the meaning. So when you, yes? Here. Kudasai, you use it when you're asking someone to give you something, like an object. Sometimes you use it when you want them to do an action for you. We'll learn about it a bit later on. It's a bit more nuanced. So when you want me to repeat something, I've said it, but you missed it, you can say this expression. Can we put it together?
Mo ichido onegai shimasu.
Onegai shimasu.
Mochido onegashimasu.
Hai. Mo ichido onegai shimasu. Great. And lastly, I will use this at the end of class. Let's take it little by little. O, tsu,
Su.
ta,
Ka.
Re.
e,
Sa.
Ta.
ta,
Ma.
Ma.
De.
de,
De.
Shi.
Shi.
Ta.
Ta.
this one's a mouthful. O tsukare-sama deshita. O tsukare.
Otsukare sama deshita.
Otsukare sama deshita.
This is a very interesting cultural expression. We don't have a good equivalent of this in English. It basically means good work or well done. But the way we use it in English is different from how they use it in Japan. So when you finish your work, at the end of some work session, usually your coworkers or your superiors will say this to you. It means you have exhausted yourself doing good work. Actually, the tsukare in this means exhaustion, tiredness. So you're telling someone, oh, you've become tired, you've worked so much, good job. That's a very cultural thing. We don't use good work like that in English. Maybe teachers will tell students, okay, good work. Maybe a boss will tell you that if you finish a project. but they won't routinely tell you that at the end of your workday, right? Every time you leave your office, everybody's not going to be like, hey, good work today, good work today. No. But this will happen routinely in Japanese culture at the end of your work, at the end of some completion. They will say, "Otsukare-sama deshita." Okay? Here. So we'll practice this once. "Otsukare-sama deshita."
Karishama Deshita.
疲れなし。
お疲れ様でした。
I will break this up again later. It's very interesting, but it's a bit complicated. It's a lot to start right away. Now, if you'll spare me a few more minutes, we'll just learn a few more expressions. You already know some of them. Yes.
Ohayo gozaimasu.
おはようございます。
Gozaimasu. Fantastic. Ohayo gozaimasu. Good morning, right? It's the equivalent of good morning. Actually, the hayo part came from the word for early. So it was a greeting that Japanese people used to say when they were up early and up and about doing their work. Generally, I don't consider it morning or good morning past 10:30 or 11 a.m., but it depends on when you wake up, I suppose. This again, I will explain it next week, right? We'll see what it's doing there later. You already know this one.
Konnichiwa.
Konnichiwa.
こんにち
こんに
は。
ちは。
So when you write it in Japanese, it becomes more apparent. There's a separate sound and then another ni. Right? So it's konni. It's not koni. Konni. Yes.
こん
I've written which character here? Ha, right? But we said wa. It's a confusing thing. We'll come back to this next week. It's grammar, actually. Kon, ban,
Konbanwa.
again, the same thing. The grammar part we'll see next week. Konbanwa means
Good evening.
good evening. Actually, nichi means day. Ban means evening. Yes, so you see it in the evening. Konbanwa. So you can say ohayo gozaimasu when you meet someone. These are all called greetings, right? The greetings or aisatsu. 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 Okay. Aisatsu is greeting. It's part of culture. You have to do it the first thing when you meet somebody for the first time in a day. Start with aisatsu. If it's like up to 10 a.m., 10:30 a.m., ohayo gozaimasu is fine. A little bit later on, you can say konnichiwa. Maybe 4:30, 5 p.m. onwards, konbanwa. Yes. You predicted that. Oh, yes. Online also, you can read. Oya, su,
にし
ni, na, sa, i. Oyasumi na
Oyasumi nasai.
oyasumi nasai. Good night. But good night, like in English, it's a parting thing, right? You don't say it when you see someone first. You don't meet someone in the evening and say, hey, oyasumi nasai. Hey, good evening. You say good evening. You say good night. You say this only when you part with someone and you're wishing them well, a good night's sleep. Again, I'll break this up and talk about it later. Grammar is interesting.
ありがとうございます。
Arigatou gozaimasu. Okay, thank you. Sometimes people tend to add a domo in front. Yes? Domo. Sometimes they just say domo. They don't say the whole thing. It's like a short form of thank you. When you say the whole thing, it's like thank you very much. Yes. Do. This is u, right? So I was going to write u again. I,
I, ta,
ha,
shi,
shi,
ma,
ma,
shi.
hey. Can we try to read it?
どういたしまして。
はい。どういたしまして。
Do itashimashite.
Dono Mashishite.
Do itashimashite.
Do itashimashite.
It's a good response for arigato gozaimasu. That being said, you may not hear that all that often in Japanese culture because their instinct is to say, no, I didn't do anything. So they'll say, no, it's no problem. I didn't do much. That kind of response is more natural than saying this, but it does exist. Some people do use it if the situation is appropriate. Like, okay, I've actually done a favor for you. And last, very short, easy. Do.
Dozo.
Zo, right? This is zo. So with the voicing mark, yes? Dozo.
Takte.
Again, this u, in many places, this u is not actually doing its own job. It's making the previous o sound a long sound. That's why you see it in arigato, ohayo. That u is doing this. We'll talk about it next weekend. But here, basically, it's dozo. Yes, dozo. Dozo is something you say when you hand something over to someone else. It can be a physical thing. It could also be a symbolic or metaphorical thing. Like if I'm handing over the mic to someone, like dozo, go ahead. Or when I'm giving my seat to someone, when I'm asking someone to sit down, dozo, please go ahead. Get in before me. I'm holding the door open. Hi, dozo. Right? So all of those things are dozo. It's also when like you go to a shop and you buy something, the shopkeeper gives you what you buy. Soremo, dozo. That's also dozo. So it's a very, very useful expression, a polite way of handing something over to someone else, like letting them go ahead of you and things like that. So when you have a question, you want to ask some, sumimasen sensei, I'll say, hi, dozo. Please go ahead. Daijoubu desu ka?
Daijoubu desu.
Hi.
大丈夫です。
Great. Yes. So for today, we'll be closing with this. Are there any questions before we wrap up? It's just 102. Great. Hi, dozo.
Is it Otsukare Sama Deshika for good work and well done, ma'am?
Yes, that's correct. Hi. Sorry? Ah, hi, dozo. Yes, please hold tight. We just have a quick announcement. I'll be handing it over to the admin team.
So as you all know, the illustration contest is actually going on. So it would be nice if all of you could submit your entries. The thing is, for people who do a really good job, all their art will come on the calendar of next year. So there's 12 months, right? For each month, winners, their pictures will be coming on the calendar. So
Yeah, please participate. So we print a yearly calendar every year, the Hayakawa calendar, and we hand it out over to our clients and all of the teachers and students, those who participate in events and things like that. So if you are interested, even vaguely interested in sketching, just give it a shot.
yeah,
Yes?
you don't need to be really good at it, but we would really appreciate it if you are able to make a illustration and send it to
A
us.
contribution.
It's there on the website. You get all the other details too. So what you have to do,
How we should submit that, ma'am, other than taking photo and ma'am?
so the first procedure is you have to take a proper scan or, take a picture. One picture should be of the illustration. The other picture should be of you holding the illustration like this.
So we know that you did it.
Yeah. And you send it to us via our email, which is contact@hayakawa.in. First, you send it to us. That deadline is 23rd. So the next deadline for you to actually give us the copy is 30th. You have to either come and give it to us before 30th, or you can post. Exactly. So your deadlines are 23rd for sending via mail. Kindly make sure you send it before that.
That's 21st today.
Yeah.
So that's just a couple of days, but it's a Sunday. So you have time, I hope. You can give it a shot. We have two different themes depending on age group. I think up to 14 years,
It is My Hero. From 15 and above, it is Sakura. And when I say Sakura, it does not mean the anime character. Sakura means it is like related to the Sakura season and the whole, whatever related to the season and the flowers. It could be a scenery or something that is done, which is famous during the Sakura season or something like that.
Daijoubu desu ka? Will you participate? Is anybody who's vaguely interested? Yes, a show of hands. Great. Yes. 2 brave souls. Any others? Yes. We've
She has already,
Great.
yeah.
Awesome.
So
Arigato.
for the people who have already submitted, can you stay because we have a, I think we can end them.
Yeah, I just informed you. Yes, those of you who are joining us online, you can also absolutely participate. The digital copy has to reach us by the 23rd, by end of day 23rd. So you have a couple of days. The physical copy is the one that has to reach us by post by the 30th of April. So it's not too late. If you're interested, please do participate and join us. As I was saying, My Hero is the theme for anybody 14 and under. And if you're above 15 years of age, then the theme is Sakura, as in the cherry blossom season in Japan and cherry blossom flower, not necessarily the characters Sakura from various anime. So yes, if you like drawing or sketching, even a little bit of interest, please do participate. As Aruna-san, the admin team, was just saying, this is something we do every year annually, and the winning 12 images will be used in our calendar in the following year. So yeah.
And for people who are sending your pictures via email, kindly do not forget to send us a picture where you're holding the picture. Okay. Thank you so much.
Yes, your sketch, you have to hold it and take a separate photo and take a high res as far as possible. A nice high res scan would be good. If you have a scanner, use the scanning bed. If you don't, then take the best camera in your house. Yes. Yeah. Any other questions before we close?
Madam, my son will draw. Is it okay, or only it should be the student?
Oh, it's actually restricted to students at the
Okay.
time. Yes, but if you could join your son and send in, that would be great.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Any questions? Great. Then we will wrap up for today. Owarimasu ne. So we'll close with this. I'll see you all again next weekend. I will be posting some materials and homework in Google Classroom. Please do check. Hai. Arigatou gozaimashita.
Arigatou gozaimasu.
Arigatou gozaimasu.
Arigatou gozaimashita.
Arigatou gozaimasu.
Yeah. Since no one, yes, please don't leave just yet.
Sumimasen sensei,
Yes.
can you please upload the material of stroke order also?
I'm sorry. Upload the materials where?
Stroke order, regarding the stroke order.
Oh, yes. I will be posting that. Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Arigato.
Hai, arigatou gozaimasu.
Sumimasen, like,
Hi, Gokul-san, dozo.
yeah, I haven't got that Google Classroom code. In the mail, I have checked it. So whom should I contact?
You know where you registered for Zoom, right? In your
Yeah.
student login?
Yeah.
There is a link in the same exact page where you have the instructions for joining Zoom. There's a link for Google Classroom also.
Okay.
Pull that up.
I think it's missing in the mail.
No,
Okay,
even
let's
for
see.
me,
It's not in the mail.
Okay.
even for me, it's missing.
I'll just share this screen. Hold on
Yeah.
1 second.
Okay.
I can't see the screen now.
Yeah, I'll just share it 1 second. Yes. Can you see this now?
Yeah.
Yeah, so these were the instructions for joining Zoom, right? You log into your ID, select classes, go to view and go to interactive. Then there was a place where you can click to join the Zoom link. Next to that, right next to the Zoom icon, there would be a Google Classroom icon. Once you click this, once you tap on this, a little pop-up will come and there will be a Google Classroom icon there. If you click on that, you will be able to join the Google Classroom link
Okay.
for batch 200. Please check. If you're still having trouble, you can contact the admin team.
Okay. Yeah, sure. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks, folder.
Arigato.
どういたしまして. Any other questions? Is this okay?
Ma'am,
Yes?
for me,
In the Gmail, they haven't sent the keyboard for Japanese.
You didn't receive the instructions?
No, ma'am.
Okay, we'll just check this out. Kayalviri. Yes.
Yes.
Arigatou gozaimasu. We'll just
Arigatou gozaimasu.
check the email.
Even I have not received the.
Do you guys have any idea? Some of them haven't received. I thought you said it's a batch email.
Stayed like really late.
Ah, okay, okay.
Should have missed them.
Okay, this is Pirechudi-san, is that you?
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay, okay. We'll make a note of both your names. Arigatou gozaimasu.
Thank you. Arigato.
Yes, next Sunday. I've asked them to bring their laptops on Saturday if possible.
People who have not submitted the registration, like, you can.
Yeah, people who
Have submitted, kindly.
Okay, once again, Scott.
Hi, if there are no other questions, those of you who are online can go ahead and sign out. Mata, I'll see you next week. Arigatou gozaimasu.
Arigatou gozaimasu.
Arigatou gozaimasu.
Arigatou gozaimasu.